Lok Adalat has the legal sanctity from the Legal Services Authority Act 1987. Based on this LSA Act, Lok Adalats were created, and this Lok Adalat has a category of permanent as well as ad hoc Lok Adalats. Every taluk level, district level, state level, national level, these Lok Adalats happen, and there is no restriction. The only restriction available is the pecuniary value, less than 10 lakhs it can be considered. Now they are looking into some revision on it. The good thing is that small disputes which have been pending for a very long period can be effectively resolved, and it is a one single window system wherein if it is settled, it will be obviously final, and there is no question of challenging the outcome of Lok Adalat subject to the parties' consent to it. When it comes to the final ADR type, that is arbitration, very commonly we can see every individual can understand this concept. This also is governed by the very famous legislation, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Having said these, there is a 5 concept of ADR mechanisms: the conciliation, mediation, DRB, Lok Adalat, and arbitration. We have to look into to what extent the existing legislation, the Central Act, which is facilitating the procedures of these ADR to be applicable to an arbitration in our country. It is very clear that there was an amendment in 2002 in the Civil Procedure Code. Many senior practitioners would be aware. After the Legal Services Authority Act 1987, the Civil Procedure Code got amended, and there was a new inclusion called Section 89. Very, very interesting provision. This Section 89 gives possibility of the judicial officer to refer to either of these ADR mechanisms. When it comes to Section 89, it is very clearly understood that they are recognizing conciliation, they are recognizing mediation, they are recognizing the Lok Adalat, additionally arbitration as well as judicial settlement. They are not touched upon dispute review board because dispute review board was a sector-specific ADR mechanism. That's why they didn't mention about it. Coming to Section 89, the very wording of this Section 89 categorically says that if the judicial authority or the judge who is looking into a particular civil suit finds that there is an element of settlement in that particular dispute, then the particular judicial officer can refer the matter to either conciliation or mediation or Lok Adalat or to arbitration or to judicial settlement, and the parties immediately can take this dispute to that either of these process, and they are entitled to claim refund of the court fee what they have deposited. That's a very interesting thing. The matter is first referred to the dispute resolution mechanisms, the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Secondly, whatever they have paid as court fee, that will be refunded. Thirdly, very interesting thing is that once they settle out of conciliation or mediation, those matters can get back to the court, and the court would ultimately record those settlement if it is successful, and they can deliver the judgment. The same way, if these conciliation or mediation process is unsuccessful, including Lok Adalat is unsuccessful, then the matter can once again come to the court and the court can continue. Based on this, Section 89, predominantly many high courts have started the functioning the court annexed mediation and conciliation centers. Very interestingly, in 2003 to 5, there was a very interesting development in the Madras High Court, wherein the first such court annexed ADR center in the title of Tamil Nadu Conciliation, Mediation and Conciliation Center, they started, and wherein all these matters under Section 89, particularly conciliation and mediations, were referred to their centers, and that center has now become a parallel court process wherein the mediators are independent persons. They are not connected to the courts. They are not judges, not the sitting judges. They might be former judges, they might be lawyers, they might be social workers, they might be technical experts, they might be professionals like chartered accountants, company secretaries, engineers. All these people have been listed in the mediators or conciliator list, and the matters are being referred to those particular professionals wherein they have a reasonable time. There is a minimal cost, not a big cost, a reasonable moderate cost, and the matter would be effectively settled. And if it is settled, the matter would be referred to the courts and finally it will be resolved. The other two aspects of Lok Adalat, judicial settlement, as well as the third one, arbitrations, were also referred. But unfortunately, what happened is that arbitration has to be a voluntary mechanism wherein it is not possible to the judicial officer to automatically refer the matter to arbitration. There should be an agreement. Without an agreement, without the consent of the parties, both the parties, it can't be referred. But conciliation and mediation, if the judicial officer finds there is a settlement, some settlement element is there in that particular dispute, it can be referred. That is how conciliation and mediation had a smooth pathway to go under Section 89 to these ADR mechanisms, all the disputes. But when it comes to arbitration, there was some impediment. And in a very interesting case, the matter, it's an Afcons infrastructure case versus Varki. In that particular case, the courts clearly mentioned that a matter to be referred to arbitration under Section 89 has to be with the consent of the parties. And obviously, under 89, now the arbitration is not effectively working. Only conciliation and mediation, including Lok Adalat, is working. This is how Section 89 is being effectively used in our country, having in that way, Section 89. And we have to be very clear that this particular Section 89 has to be facilitated not only by the judicial officer, it can be facilitated by delegates also. They can make an application. They can make an application to the judicial officer, and based on that application also, the judicial officer can refer the matter to conciliation or mediation. But when it comes to the matters to conciliation or mediation, the process which is being taken to the court annexed centers, particularly the high courts, as well as now it is being facilitated by the district courts also. The problem is we don't have an effectively trained team of mediators. They are trained, but they don't have a practical exposure of dealing with all type of disputes. It can be a family dispute. It can be a very small civil dispute. It can be financial disputes. It can be commercial disputes. It can also be highly technically complex disputes. The problem comes that we can't expect that particular mediator or a conciliator to be an expert in all those, the particular domain. And ultimately, they need to get assistance of the experts. And in that way, the cost increases, the time increases, and the aspect of settlement, which is expected within 2 or 3 months, is trying to reach 4 or 5 months. That is the situation right now. But still, it is a really an effective platform, Section 89, if it is used by the judicial officer at the right time. If it is not effectively used, still the parties have an option to refer it to Lok Adalat. The parties can request the judicial officer to refer to Lok Adalat. The judicial officers, I think many would be aware that not much can be expected by the judicial officers to understand the nuances of all these ADR mechanisms. But recently, the judicial academies of various states have started training all these judicial officers, and now they are well equipped. They are very keen. From the initial stage of filing itself, they are looking into the files and referring the matter to either of these mechanisms. Now comes why these matters are referred to ADR. What is the purpose of referring all these matters to ADR? Invariably, there is a very interesting component called party autonomy. I think many of you would be aware of this. As a litigant, when it comes to court, what is happening in the courts? Nothing wrong. The procedures are very clear. The dispute has to be facilitated by the legal counsel. Advocate have to take that matter to the courts. It is not the parties they themselves are presenting. Options are there, but still 99% of the cases being facilitated by the advocate through Wakalatnama. Every issues which has been instructed to the councils, it is being taken to the courts, and ultimately the matters goes on, appeals on various levels. At one stage, the original ingredient of that particular disputes would have a wide scope of understanding, and ultimately the core disputes would be diluted. Nothing wrong. The process, the time takes away, and ultimately the party who is the aggrieved party, or who is the party, the other side, obviously they miss the opportunity. They have conveyed the message to a council. It has started, assuming that it started in 2000. It goes on, and ultimately it reaches to 2020 without any conclusion. The procedures are like that. The parties have the full rights to fight it out till the apex court of this country. Nothing wrong in it. But what will happen to the parties? What will happen to the dispute? Assuming that we have a dispute worth of 50 lakhs, and if the dispute is being resolved after 15 years, what is the benefit? If the dispute is being resolved next year, assuming that 2021, with that money, the parties can effectively utilize that money, promote his business, or even save that money. The same money comes after 15 years, minimum. In an average, we can say that in the courts, it will take at least 15 years to have a final judgment. Getting that 50 lakhs with a small interest, assuming that 6% or 8% interest is much low. Getting that money, what it's a work for that litigant. The litigant, the party has lost everything. Even though he has succeeded, he can't just effectively use that particular fruit, what he has gained from that particular judgment. In that way, we have to take into consideration very important aspect of party autonomy, the time consumed for any dispute resolution process, what is the cost involved in the perspective of the party, to what extent the presiding officers, whether the judges or whether the ADR professionals, have the technical expertise, to what extent the disputes are confidential, to what extent the procedures are comfortable, to what extent it is enforceable and it is going to be seen the finality, and to what extent it is taken for appeal. And invariably, the cost and fees also is involved. Taking into the first consideration, party autonomy. I think many of you would accept this. When it comes to a litigation, how many of you would have that option to choose the judge? Whether you have the option? Surely we don't have. We don't have the concept of we don't have the concept of choosing the judge. We can file the case, the lawyer file the case in the registry allocate the matter to a specific judge, and any one judge who might deal with the case would take up, and it won't end up with that judge. It can just prolong, go for 3 years, and another judge would come. It goes on. Surely, as a party, we don't have the right to choose the judge. Secondly, as a party, whether we have a right to choose the process or the procedure? No. In the courts, we have the very time-tested procedural codes, the Civil Procedure Code 1908. We can't just go away from it. Invariably, we have to follow. Thirdly, whether the parties have the right to settle? Yes, we do have, but at what time, at what cost, that we can't just predict. So much of issue comes when it comes to party autonomy. I have a small comparison table. When you take to arbitration, any ADR mechanisms, and the litigation, to what extent where arbitration or the ADR mechanisms have the advantage. Litigations, when you come to litigation, you can simply say is that it delays. It is a delay process. When it comes to litigation, the second aspect, it is expensive. It doesn't ends in the initial stages. In the initial stages, we have the court fees, which is non-refundable, has to be deposited. Then there is a cost involved, that is advocates, legal fees and expenses. There are various interlocutory applications, miscellaneous applications, files in the court. For every applications to file as well as defend, there is a charge. And when it comes to appeal also, certain reasonable charges are being levied by the courts or the registry. We can't just go away from it. These costs eventually are there. We have to go along with it. Thirdly, the judge or the judicial officer who's going to deal with the dispute won't be expert in all subjects. He might have an expertise in particular area like tax dispute, or he might be expert in criminal law, or he might be expert in commercial laws. Likewise, he might be expert in certain areas of law. If we have such experts, obviously it's good if such nature of dispute goes before the judge. But it is not like that. The system is that any type of disputes, except in high courts, we have the portfolio judges, they can manage. Otherwise, in the subordinate courts, a trial court, if a matter has been taken, we can't expect that person to be expert in all fields. He has to depend on experts. Ultimately, there is a third party involved. With the help of third party only, the judge can resolve the dispute or deliver an effective judgment. Fourthly, the procedures and the proceedings are public. In courts, any public can follow the hearing. It is a public hearing. Record the hearing and participate. The only thing is that they won't represent. A third person can effectively participate in a court proceeding. In that way, it is a public hearing and there is no confidentiality in it. Then fifthly, there is no flexibility of choosing the language in the court proceedings. The language is strictly the court language, assuming that we are in the state of Gujarat. The subordinate courts obviously have to go with Gujarati or English, subject to what the court language has been fixed. It all depends on that. There is no flexibility, assuming that there is a person who doesn't knows Gujarati, doesn't knows English, he is a litigant there. He has to depend on official court translators. There is no choice given to that litigant when it comes to court proceeding. Next comes a very interesting appeal. In courts, whatever we are saying that 10 years, 15 years, or 5 years, or 20 years, or even some cases, I had an experience when I started my practice in 1997. There was a case 25 years old, and even now it is pending. There is no end to appeals. Reasonable levels of appeals are there when it comes to court proceedings. So much of aspect is there when it comes to the process of courts. The courts have its own procedures laid down under the Civil Procedure Code. It's a wonderful procedure course, time-tested one, but still the party loses the entire autonomy when it comes to the option of the court proceedings. Very interestingly, the other aspects of the litigation, stakeholders. The stakeholders involved in litigation: 1, the judge or the judicial officer; 2, the registry; 3 comes the advocate; 4th comes the litigants. The litigant comes as a 4th person. But in the same component, if you have a comparison, the ADR mechanisms, there is no court, there is no judicial officer, there are only the litigants as well as the persons who are termed as mediators or arbitrators or conciliators or members of Lok Adalat. In that way, the ingredients have been minimized. Okay. Coming to the interesting components of the ADR mechanisms, first we have to understand what is arbitration? The very prominent among this ADR mechanism, what is arbitration? A general understanding is that the very famous author has highlighted that an arbitration is a form of alternative dispute resolution, which is a technique for the resolution of the dispute outside the court, where the parties to a dispute refer it to a dispute which is referred to one or more persons who are termed as arbitrators or arbitral tribunal, by whose decision, that is the award what they give, they agree to be bound. It is a resolution technique in which a third party reviews the evidence in the case and imposes a decision that is legally binding for both sides and enforceable. As a matter of repetition, I'll just highlight. Arbitration is an alternative dispute resolution. It is an ADR, no doubt, which happens outside the courts. It is not inside the court, it is outside the court, where the parties to the dispute, that is commonly in courts we call them plaintiff and defendant. In arbitration and other ADR mechanism, we call them claimant and respondent. The claimants and respondent refer it to one or more than one person. Those persons are called as mediators, conciliators, or arbitrators. Ultimately, those persons, if it is an arbitration, they are going to give a decision. If they are a mediator or conciliator, with the consent of the parties, they are going to give a settlement agreement or a mediated agreement. And they agree to be bound. This is a simple understanding of the term or definition of the term arbitration or mediation as such. This definition itself gives the various aspects. It is happening outside the court. If it is going to happen outside the court, who is going to preside? Surely there is no judge. There is no judge to deal with that particular dispute. It is happening outside the court. Then who will be the presiding officer? Any person. The understanding is that any neutral individual, or it can be more than one person, can sit. Those persons are termed as arbitrators, mediators, or conciliator. How to choose this arbitrator? How to choose this mediator? How to choose this conciliator? It's very simple. Two disputants, both the parties have to agree and appoint. That person would be the well-wisher of both the parties. This is a general understanding of it. A legal understanding is that the person has to be neutral, unbiased, independent, as well as impartial. These are the four things that a person has to keep in mind, or the parties have to keep in mind while appointing the presiding official. Independent, impartial, neutral, as well as unbiased person. Can you just find this person easily? Very hard. How to find this person? Assuming that there are many friends participating here, I could see Mr. Avinash was here, Mr. Sachin was here, Rakesh Chauhan is there, Vikash Yadav is there. Whether all of you are independent person who are eligible to sit? Yes, but still you are tested by a very concept called conflict of interest. You going to sit as arbitrator or mediator or conciliator should not have interest on the dispute. That is the first. You should not have an interest on the parties or with the parties. You should not have any interest or relationship with the dispute as such. You should be independent from all. The dispute, the party involved, the party's representative, as well as the outcome of that particular dispute. You have to be totally independent. You have to be impartial, unbiased, and obviously you have to be neutral. A person, a party, to consider a person to have all these qualities, invariably end up in the courts and appoint. As I earlier mentioned, under section 89, if the matters refer to the court annexed mediation or conciliation center, they have a panel of mediators. Whatever might be the expertise or training, they are deemed to be neutral. They are deemed to be having all these qualities. That is enough to appoint. This also applies for arbitration. There, the parties have to choose only a neutral person. Outside the court, choosing the person to preside might be a problem, but you can choose a person with neutral quality. Next comes the aspect of how to refer this matter if it is not referred by or under section 89. If it is arbitration, fine, the parties can enter into an arbitration clause or a dispute resolution clause. If the parties wants to go to mediation or conciliation, how to refer it? The parties can go for a submission, mediation, or a conciliation clause. It's very simple. The parties have to, in writing, agree on certain component. The first component is that they have to agree the term that we are referring the matter to mediation. Secondly, we are referring the matter to a mediator who is deemed to be neutral, or sometimes they may also name the mediator. Mutually, they will name a particular mediator. Third, they will specifically mention that this mediation has to be completed within 60 days, 90 days, or 120 days. Like that, there will be a time specification. Further, they will refer that this mediation has to be taken based on a particular language in a particular place. All these 4 to 5 components you can just draft and refer the matter to mediation or conciliation, similar to arbitration. That is the second aspect. This is how the parties can refer the matter to either of these ADR mechanisms other than section 89. Assuming that if the parties have such a clause, a mediation clause or a conciliation clause or an arbitration clause, still we lawyers, I am also basically a lawyer, we always intend to take it to the courts, because the courts is the best place to resolve the dispute, no doubt on it. We will try to take it to the courts. In such a situation, there is a clause, but still we refer the matter to the courts. What the court would do? Now it is very clear. The courts, if they look into the contract and finds that there is a clause which is asking the parties, or the parties have agreed to take it to mediation or conciliation or arbitration, the court has no other choice. They have to refer it to either of these ADR mechanisms, no doubt on it. I think commonly the practitioners would be aware that in arbitration, at least, we have a very specific provision, section 8. Take application under section 8, the party can refer it to the courts, and the court would look into the contract, or if it finds that there is an arbitration clause, they immediately refer the matter to arbitration. There is no chance of continuing with that. In such a way, if you have an ADR clause, specifically arbitration clause, it is well settled that it prevails over the court jurisdiction. Exceptions are there. It is not that all disputes can be taken to ADR. There is a criminal issue. Assuming that I am not so keen with Mr. Sachin Verma, the faculty, I am just harming him. There is a physical injury created by me. I am becoming an accused. He is the victim. Can I take this, or he can just get a remedy invoking any of these ADR? No, it is not possible in our country. It is a criminal offense. It has to be taken only to the courts under the Criminal Procedure Code as well as the IPC, Indian Penal Codes. There is a very interesting component called action or right in rem, right in personam. If there is a dispute which emanated out of right in rem, we can't take it. It is not advisable to take it to ADR, particularly arbitration. It's not possible. If it is in right in personam, if parties agree, it can be referred to either of these ADR mechanisms specifically. To further understand is that if a dispute is being managed by a law which is both substantive and procedural, then ADR is not advisable, because that particular legislation itself would try to effectively manage it. This is how we can just disseminate which one we can take it to ADR, which one we cannot take it to ADR. A good example, family dispute. a dispute between husband and wife. The wife is seeking for a divorce. Can we take it to ADR? According to my understanding, it can be taken to ADR, but it can be taken only to mediation. It can't be taken to arbitration. The second aspect comes that why we cannot take it to arbitration. It's clear that the arbitration is governed by an act, and in that act it is very categorically mentioned that if there is any special statute which is dealing with a dispute, if it is a divorce, there is a Family Courts Act. Similarly, if there is a labor dispute, we have a Industrial Dispute Act. Those are special statutes which are both substantive and procedural. If we have a dispute which is tax, example tax, every day we are paying income tax, we are paying GSTs, direct and indirect taxes. Whether we can take it to arbitration? No, we can't take it to arbitration because there are special statutes to deal with. But we can still take it to mediation, subject to both the parties concerned. We have various new legislations which has been amended, like Consumer Protection Act has been amended in 2019. The Companies Act got amended in 2013, and several other act like the recent development Commercial Courts Act 2015. All these acts are facilitating mediation. Before a matter comes to a litigation, we can try to mediate. Pre-litigation mediations are there. In that way, it is well facilitated, not arbitration, only mediation or conciliation. Even the Companies Act, section 442, if I'm wrong, just try to correct me. It is clearly mentioned that mediation and conciliation panel. Similarly, the National Company Law Tribunals, NCLTs, they also have started pre-mediation or pre-litigation mediations. Similarly, Consumer Protection Act has categorically given that you first mediate, then take it to the district forums or state forums. This is how ADR has been split up. In ADR, arbitration is the topmost, very professional way to resolve the disputes. The other mediations and conciliations are the preliminary stages. All disputes, exception is a criminal matter, all disputes can be taken to mediations and conciliation. But when it comes to arbitration, it is very clear that it cannot be taken randomly for all disputes. It has certain restrictions. It has to have a commercial viability for the disputes to be taken to arbitration. This is how we can just generalize what disputes can be referred to either of these ADR mechanisms. Final portion of my submissions is that to what extent this arbitration is viable and what categories of arbitration is available in this country. In our country, we have two concepts of arbitration. One is called ad hoc arbitration and another is called institutional arbitration. It's very simple. It's a very common thing. I used to say that whether you want to choose a love marriage or an arranged marriage, I think you can raise how many of you are interested with, if you have a second chance, how many of you are interested to take choice-based marriage? I could see only one. You can raise your hands. There is a button in the bottom. Very, very happy. The numbers are increasing rapidly. Fine. If you are going for choice-based, what is the advantage we have commonly? We know the girl, or the other way, we know the boy. We have a lot of options. We have all the pre-determinations. We can fix it, all the things in advance. We are well prepared for it. So much of advantages there. How many of you now want to choose arranged marriage? Just to put a thumbs up. You can react. Okay, no one is interested. But anyway, it has its own advantage. It is solemnized by the parents. The financial aspects are being dealt by, entirely dealt by the third party, not the bride and the bridegroom. Third persons are dealing with it. and obviously they are facilitating. Only thing is that the parties involved, husband and wife, are like strangers getting in the same platform. Okay, which one is better now? Now, the better one is the first one, what I have mentioned, the choice based. When it comes to arbitration, ad hoc is considered as choice based, institutional is considered as arranged. An institutional setup is like an organization which is facilitating the process. There are various difficulties an arbitrator would encounter: maintaining the files, fixing the hearings, finding the venues, coordinating with the parties. All, if in the courts, the court registry would do. For that only they are charging the court fees. If it is ad hoc, the arbitrators themselves have to do. If it is in institution, the institutional arbitration means the institution would facilitate all the things. The institution would appoint the arbitrators, collect the documents, have a depository of those documents, in turn finally issues a certificate copy of the documents, including the awards, subject to the approval of the parties. The institution functions as a depository. The institution functions as a monitoring authority of the arbitration process. The institution functions as a facilitator of the entire arbitration proceedings. In that way, ad hoc or institutional, in our country, presently institution is being promoted. Ad hoc is not advisable because too much of responsibilities and liabilities lies on the arbitrators. That's why we had to go to institutional arbitrations. Now, as a recap, I have just tried to cover the initial concept within this reasonable time. What is ADR? What are the categories or types of ADR available in a country? What are the legislations available to facilitate it? What are the rules? And what are the comparison of advantages or disadvantages of choosing either of these mechanisms? And when it comes to these ADR mechanisms, court annexed as well as the independent one. And finally, what are the categories, major categories of arbitrations at least prevailing in our country? Having said all these, it is very interesting that why we choose this ADR mechanisms is very simple. One, the party autonomy is safeguarded. Party can choose, fix everything. The procedure is flexible. We need not adhere the principles of Civil Procedure Code. We can have our own procedures. The cost is reasonable. Effective cost mechanism is ADR. We are predetermined cost is there in arbitration or mediation or conciliation. Time, less time consuming, is an efficient process. We can reasonably complete. In India, fortunately, the arbitration legislation asks us to complete the arbitration at least now with 12 months. For the extension of 6 months, 18 months, we have to complete. And very interestingly, arbitration or most of these ADR mechanisms are private and confidential. The party, the disputing parties would be the happiest party if their dispute has been resolved within 4 walls, wherein no third party is involved or monitoring or recording or interfering in your process. This process, this ADR process, obviously facilitates the disputants as well as the presiding officers to have the confidentiality and maintain the private meetings. No third party can be involved in it. It is totally private and confidential. All parties wants to resolve the dispute in this manner. In this way, ADR, as a person advocating ADR, all people have to take this, guide the litigants. If you are a litigant, you have to opt out for these ADR mechanisms, and the judiciary also is now facilitating. Take this and try to minimize the burden, which is what you can say, it is like a huge rock on the judiciary, and it is killing the valuable time of judiciary dealing with very important, prominent, complex disputes. The courts are there to deal with a harmonious society. All our dispute, which is commercial, which has a commercial nature, which are totally private, wherein there is no role of the government as such or the judiciary as such, should not be taken to the courts. You take it to all these ADR mechanisms. These ADR mechanisms have the sanctity, have a conclusion. It is enforceable, it is acceptable, and there is no question of various levels of appeals. There are appeals, but very reasonable levels of appeals are there. And very interestingly, Lok Adalat, once an award is given in that process, it is final and binding because the parties are given the consent, and ultimately it has to be just enforced. One thing, enforcement would be done only by the courts, not by the arbitrators or mediators or the conciliators or the members of the Lok Adalat. It has to be done only by the courts. Friends, within the, I have just highlighted some basic components and ideas about ADR, that is alternate dispute resolution. Even though it is alternative dispute resolution, I have to advocate that it is an acceptable one, it is an approved one, it is an authenticated one. Thank you, friends. I think now with the subject to the approval of the host and organizers, if we have time, we can go for, I think we have another 5-10 minutes. Yeah, I can try to answer the questions what has been.
If anyone has any doubt, they can ask questions.
Sir, my name is Pankaj Jain. I have two questions. One is regarding, is there any guideline or advisory available in India for ADR? And if yes, where we have to approach?
ADR as such, we don't have any guidelines. The only available aspect which has been highlighted is just section 89 of the Civil Procedure Code. Nothing beyond that.
Okay. And my second question regarding the decision given by the Panchayat and the Khap Panchayat in Haryana, where there is a lot of objection is there, which is not acceptable at all. So in such cases, the candidate can move to the court and bypassing the Khap Panchayat?
Surely, sir. Khap Panchayat or the normal Panchayat are not recognized. Not recognized by any rules or regulations as per legislations. It is not an acceptable one. If such issues are being taken to the courts, the court has to commence a trial from beginning. It can't be acceptable. Any decisions taken by the Panchayats or the Khap Panchayat is not recognized. That is why in my presentation, I highlighted only the 5 major aspects of ADR. One, the conciliation, mediation, then the Lok Adalat, DRB, and arbitration. If it is term and if the parties are mutually agreed, assuming that it's a Khap Panchayat, whether there is a written agreement between the parties, no. It is a system where we call it a non-state judicial system. All these Panchayat and Khap Panchayat comes under NSJS. NSJS is not recognized. Not only in India, in any part of the world is not recognized. Okay. But still some societies, within that society, they are following. There are several examples. I think if you go to some fishing community, all the coastal area of India, every coastal area have their own rules and regulations wherein they are abide by it. But as a recognized system for enforceability, all those are not recognized, including these Panchayat and Khap Panchayat. It's not acceptable.
Okay. Now, based on your lecture, what I have understood, it is a very speedy process, less costly. But whether this option is available with individual for divorce, can I go with ADR? For compromise, yes, can I go with ADR? For my house, house I have given to third party, and if he is not vacating, can I go with ADR? So that is the reason I am asking, is there any guideline?
Yes, sir. ADR as such, you can go for mediation or conciliation. That too, when it comes to a rental issue, there is a special statute. Rent Control Act is there. I think most of the states do have the state legislation, wherein it is both substantive and procedural. It has to be taken to the courts only. But in courts, the court under section 89 now, most of the courts are referring it to mediation. that is possible. But not straight away, you can't take it to area because that particular dispute comes under the Rent Control Acts. This is an exception.
Okay. But in some cases, I have seen the judge has given instruction to settle outside. What does it mean, yani? If he settle outside, yani, is it acceptable to judge, yani?
One thing, sir, what the presiding officer or the judicial officer or judge, they are asking to settle it outside. It is nothing new. It was a quite old practice. The matter might be pending for long without any complex issues. The simple issue might be there. It's all ego issues, not serious litigations or technicalities involved. And the judges would say, instead of me deciding, they will give an option to the parties, you go outside and settle. That is nothing. You people have a private discussion leisurely and get back to me with a memo of compromise. Based on that memo of compromise, which is happening outside the court, they will record and ultimately those matters will be disposed. That's
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank
not
you.
involved. He is not facilitating. He is asking the parties to deal it by themselves, and ultimately he is giving a recognition.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Any other?
Yes, sir. Rajiv sir ask.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, can during the arbitration one party request the change of an arbitrator, giving some points that this arbitrator is either not impartial, or he is showing partiality towards one party?
Yes, sir. Assuming that, whether I can just understand that your question is that whether the party has the right to change
Right.
the arbitrator.
Right.
If the arbitrator is appointed by the parties themselves or by the courts, the parties have the right. They have the right to remove the arbitrator. But to remove the arbitrator, there is a procedure. That based on the procedure, we call it Section 12 applications. Section 12 under the Arbitration Conciliation Act, an application has to be filed. But the unfortunate thing, you have to make the application before the same arbitrator.
Okay.
You have to file asking him that you are partial, you are biased, and for that there are still a good number of arbitrators. If they feel that they come under these categories, partial or biased. Now it is very interesting. There are 34 items listed under the fifth schedule of the Arbitration Conciliation Act 2015 amendment. Totally 34 items. And if the arbitrator comes under either of these items, you have the right to ask that arbitrator to relinquish his position. And you will take upon those grounds, one of those grounds, and you'll ask him. And very interestingly, in that first 19, if it comes under the first 19 out of the list, that arbitrator is automatically prohibited to continue. So much of strict concept is brought in that has been shifted to 7th schedule. But other things are there. No, from 20 to 34, you have full rights to raise, but it is all that arbitrator to decide whether to continue or not.
So second part of the same question is whether in how much time do we have to can we apply for, if you don't agree with the arbitration decision, is there any time frame that we can apply to another court or something like that?
Yes, sir. There is a strict limitation principle here. Once an award is published, there's a day when the award has been received by the parties who is approaching the courts. We have only 3 months. 90 days is there. Beyond that, there is one possibility of, if you have a valid reason for the delay in filing the challenge, 1 more month is there. Totally 3 months plus 30 days. That is 4 months is there. Beyond that, there is no possibility. And now, very interestingly, in 2015, addition to this, party who wants to challenge that award, arbitral award in the courts, have to file a stay application along with this Section 34 application. If the courts, if they grant stay, then only the enforcement or execution of that award would be stopped. And normally the courts are granting stay, but with the conditional order, assuming that if the award is for an amount of 1 crore, they are asking the party who's challenging to deposit 25 lakhs in the court, then only the stay would be granted. In that way, conditional orders are given. But time is very strict. The limitation is very clear, 3 months plus 30 days. Totally assuming that 30 days is there.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No question, sir.
I think I have reasonably clarified and given some information about ADR and specifically arbitration. Mr. Sachin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ankita, ma'am?
Closing submissions you want to see?
Yes, sir. Closing submission.
Yeah.
Sir, our HOD madam, Dr. Ankita Nirvani ma'am is there with us. Over to you, Ankita ma'am. Your audio is off. Ankita ma'am, audio on, yes.
Good evening. Yes. Good evening, everyone. I, Dr. Ankita Nirvani, HOD of Oriental School of Law, presents vote of thanks to our chief guest for knowledgeable speech. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sachin and Dr. Ankita Nirvani, as well as the host, Mrs. Varalika. I think you can all get my coordinates if required with Mr. Sachin, so that in future, if you have any doubts to be clarified in arbitration, you can just contact me. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Yes, sir. We will
Definitely,
invite
sir.
you
Thank
in
you
our
very much.
university, sir. Thank you, sir.
All be safe at home, enjoy your time, and facilitate this dispute resolution process through online. Thank you.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you, sir.
you.